right, Terry, the season was 1962, and you know, I tell people all the time, you're the most decorated athlete to ever come out of the state, because in 1962, you took home a truckload full of trophies, and I don't know what's happened to all those things, but in 62, you won the Heisman Trophy. Everybody knows that. But you also won the Maxwell Award, the W.J. Voigt Memorial Trophy. You were a consensus first-team All-American. You were the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year. You were a Helms Foundation Award recipient. You won 14 Player of the Year awards, including the AP, the UPI, and the Sporting News. And you were also in the last time the College All-Stars, that was the 63 game, where the All-Star team defeated the NFL champions. And, you know, you got to be kind of an old guy to remember when the College All-Stars played the NFL guys, but they used to do it. And it was a fun game, raised a lot of money for charity and everything. But anyway, Terry, you look back now and it's been 50 years, you know. What do you remember most about that year?
Well, I'm glad you asked most, because I can't remember everything, that's for sure. Well, it was a special year. I mean, no question about it. Everything kind of came together. You know, the football, going to the Liberty Bowl, and the 99-yard run was something that sticks with me, you know, for a lot of reasons. One is that's a record that's not going to be easy to break.
Well, it's impossible to break.
Right.
It's the longest run. You won the Liberty Bowl. It was a 6-0 win. You ran 99 yards for a touchdown from scrimmage, not a return or anything like that. And for folks who don't understand, you can't run farther than 99 yards in football. You can't run from scrimmage for 100 yards because the ball can't be on the other goal line.
Right.
So statistically, that's the record for all football. Nobody can run further than 99 yards, right?
That's my opinion, unless they lengthen the field, unless you go to Canada.
Right.
But then the other thing that you didn't mention was, you know, the basketball that followed right after it.
Final Four. You played in the Final Four.
Yeah, which was a wonderful experience. And basketball actually was my first love, going down to Oregon State. I went on a basketball scholarship. I didn't play football my first year. And so... and putting those two together makes it just quite a wonderful year.
Yeah. Well, before I get too deep into your college career, I do want to take a step back. You went to Jefferson High School. Now, you played on one of the great high school football teams that ever came through Oregon, I'm sure. And people, a lot of the old-timers, of course, understand that you were in the same backfield with Mel Renfro, Pro Football Hall of Famer, and a great line. You had great linemen. I mean, it was just a terrific team. What are your memories of that team?
Well, again, you know, it was one of those storied situations, kind of like Camelot. We must have had 7 or 8 players off of that Jefferson team that went on to play what would be the equivalent today of Pac-12 football. That's just, if you get one player every 10 years that goes on and plays, you know, that caliber of football in that league, that's exceptional, and we had a whole slug of them. I feel blessed with that, because not only was it fun, you know, we won umpteen state championships my senior year. You know, we won it in football, baseball. We didn't win it in basketball, but we won it in track, and I think tennis, golf, and on, had the Rose Festival Queen, everything, you know. And also a good education. Felt well prepared when I went away to college.
So as a senior at Oregon State, you led the nation in passing yards, touchdown passes, points accounted for, passer rating, if they did the same passer rating then that they do now, and you won the Heisman. But you're the first guy to win it from like west of the Mississippi, and certainly nobody from the Pacific Northwest was ever going to win that award. At least that's what most people thought, Terry, because we just didn't get the attention. You know, people in the East, they didn't pay much attention to football out here.
I was totally oblivious to what was going on. The Heisman Trophy wasn't even on my radar screen. It never occurred to me that I was in the running or might win it. It just didn't exist.
Of course, there wasn't the hype then that there is now.
There wasn't the hype. There wasn't, you know, other than that Liberty Bowl game my senior year, I don't think we were on TV even.
But John Eggers was the sports information director at Oregon State, and he had an idea, and it turned out to be an idea that really sort of changed the landscape of Heisman voting, All-American voting, and all that stuff forever after.
Yeah, I was in the dark about what Johnny was doing, and I've learned subsequently of what he did, but it was still on a scale that doesn't even, it pales compared to what's done today.
Of course.
It was basically a mimeograph machine sending out what the statistics were.
Yeah, he sent out a little press release every week on what you did, made people aware of what you were doing week by week by week, which nobody had really ever done that before. Strange as it, now they have these slick campaigns where they send out little dolls or toys or whatever. But, so you win it, and you go to New York and you do all that. But by the time you're getting the Heisman Trophy, basketball season's underway, and you guys are on a crusade to get to the Final Four. Now, you did get to the Final Four. You didn't win it, obviously, but the Final Four was a little different in those days, too, was it not?
Yeah, it was different because if you lost in the semifinals, you had to play another game, which nobody wanted to play, to be quite frank with you. You're out of gas and there wasn't much left in it. But it was still a big deal going to Final Four. It isn't what it was today, with March Madness. It wasn't that. But the year before, we'd gone to the regionals and played UCLA in the regionals and lost to them. And so the second year at the regionals, we obviously won it and got onto the Final Four. But that was a big thing to me. It was as big as going to a bowl game, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing people don't remember, and I remember this, maybe I'm wrong, Terry, but I remember seeing you play baseball, and I remember seeing you, I think, pitch. Were you not a right-hander in baseball and a left-handed quarterback?
That's correct, yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, the best I can come up with for an explanation is I had two older brothers. And they were both right-handed, and those were the two gloves that were available. And I put the glove on the left hand and throw with the right hand. And you're right, I pitched, and we won the state championship my senior year in baseball.
Did you ever roll out right in football and throw a pass right-handed?
If I did, it didn't go more than 3 or 4 yards, something like that. And the funny part about it is, Dwight, if I pick up a baseball, I can only throw it right-handed. If I try to throw it with the left hand, you'd think I had never thrown anything in my life. It's kind of a mix.
Okay, Terry, after college, and this is into the area that I recall very well. You were drafted by the Los Angeles Rams, the first pick of the draft, as I recall. And my sense of this, and I'm going to ask you for yours, I just want to give you my sense of it. You played for a guy with the Rams by the name of Harlan Savari. And my recollection is, I don't think the guy could coach. And that's just what, I'm going to say that first so that maybe you don't have to. I don't know what you want to say about him. But in my opinion, the Rams were kind of a mess. I think you went to a bad spot. That's what I'm saying. How do you feel about your pro career? Because it really didn't happen for you.
Yeah, well, you're right. It was a disappointment to me. I don't know if I would say that Harlan, I can't really evaluate whether he's a good or bad coach. I think our first season we won 1 game. If he was made any real major coaching blunders, I think it was probably starting me the very first league game of the season, ahead of Roman Gabriel and Zeke Bartowski. And, it was a surprise to everybody who was even going to start. I mean, it was kind of crazy,
Maybe he didn't want you to succeed.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that. Because actually, Harlan, as a person, I liked very much. As off the field, I really thought he was a great guy. I mean, Tommy Prothro, my college coach, was a good coach. And Harlan, lasted 3 years there in Los Angeles, and then George Allen came in. And I think that was pretty much the end of Harlan's career. He was maybe an assistant somewhere after that. But, it was part of it, too. Also, when you're the first choice in the draft in those days, there was no lottery or anything. You went to the team with the worst record in the league. And then the Rams had a penchant for drafting quarterbacks at that time. I mean, they drafted a quarterback 3 years in a row. Roman the year before me, and then Bill Munson after me. And it was just, I think, a little bit of turmoil there. It's it's a long time ago. You know, you look at a team like that. Our training facilities were in a municipal park. I mean, high school facilities would be better than what we had in those days. Things certainly changed. You know, later, and George Allen was responsible for a lot of that. It was just an experience. You know, it could have been different. I had a chance to go to the Giants, but I was in law school in the middle of the year, and so I told him I didn't want to go back there.
All right, Terry, and I have to tell you, part of my, I guess, venom toward Harlan Savari is born on a given night in Portland, Oregon. The Rams, and another thing that happened in the old days, the Rams had an exhibition game in Portland, and the NFL teams used to come here all the time and play exhibition games, and I remember my dad took me, and the whole thing, everybody was there, it was sold out. They were there to see Terry Baker play for the Rams, right?
Sure, sure.
And he didn't play you.
Well, or I played very little.
Yeah, right.
Played a quarter or something. And today, though, you know that's standard procedure, that your starting quarterback would maybe play a quarter and you're looking at other people, you know, checking them out. But that was a different situation. Harry Glickman used to promote these exhibition games, and you're right, it was the big reason he brought the Rams here was because I was on the team. But
was it a disappointment to you that night not to play more?
Oh, sure, because the fans were just yelling, you know, put in Baker, and booing my teammates that were in there playing, you know, and I feel bad for them, and it wasn't their fault, obviously, but Harlan had his mind made up of how much time I was going to play, and he followed it, to his credit, I guess.
And they tried you at receiver, they tried kind of halfback, I think, they tried a lot of different things.
Actually, and I don't know exactly when that transition was made, but I played, it seems like, the last year or two mostly at halfback. One year, the only game we won, I got the game ball for catching a TD pass. This is ironic, with just seconds left in the game from the halfback position, and we beat the Chicago Bears. And ultimately, George Allen, who released me from the team, had the picture in his office behind his desk when I'm sitting just like this with you, and there's the picture of me catching the TD pass in the end zone. And but that's one of the memories I've got of pro football.
After the NFL, you did try a year in Canada, right? How did you like that? Was that fun?
Well, it was an experience. It was different. You know, the team was made up. You could only have so many Americans, imports, and a lot of the Canadians. And the imports were really there to play professional football. A lot of the Canadians at that time, it was just a second job for them. They were school teachers or something like that. But it was a good experience.
You played well up there.
Had a good year, and expected probably to play again, but it coincided with my graduation from law school at the same time. I was going to law school while I was playing football with the Rams, and that. I'd go to night school during the season and day in the off season. And I wanted to take the bar exams, and it conflicted with their opening exhibition game up in Canada, and we hadn't agreed on what my contract would be for the second year. And so I thought I had them kind of over a barrel, so to speak, because I had finished the season starting quarterback, and we'd got to the quarterfinals or whatever it was for the Grey Cup. And they finally said, well, they played the first exhibition game and got beat terribly. And they said, well, either you get up here and then fly back down and take the bar exam, or else we're going to find another quarterback. And I said, well, you give me what I want and I'll come. And they said, well, they got another quarterback. And so I ended up practicing law in Portland, Oregon, which I hadn't even figured I was going to do at that time.
No kidding. You were going to law school, but you hadn't really...
Well, I wanted to take the Oregon bar exam. And then, because I'd gone to USC Law School, I was going to take the California bar exam. I had an offer from a very, very good firm in Los Angeles. But when the thing blew up on me in my face going back to Canada, I needed a job. So I'd taken the Oregon bar exam, and so I went to work for a law firm here in Portland.
Oh,
you know, not everything works out just the way you plan it.
Even for Heisman Trophy winners, it doesn't all go as planned.
Well, that speaks for itself. I go to Oregon State to play basketball and end up winning the Heisman Trophy. I never even figured I'd be playing.
And I want to talk about that trophy specifically, too, because the story was for years you had it just in a closet. Or so. Is that true that for years you just put it in a closet?
Yeah, it was a doorstop down in a bedroom we never used. But in fact, one of my best friends, when they'd come over and their daughter would sleep down there while we were up and everything, as an infant, or a toddler, I should say, she was scared to death of that trophy and just scream, you know. But
that man on there, pushing her away.
But it's at Oregon State now, and I gave basically not all of my trophies, but almost 95% of them to him. Ironically, the two I kept was the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year Award, which is a Grecian urn, which you wonder how you get that into a trophy. And the most bizarre one probably of all is the Maxwell Award trophy, which is a silver cigar box. And why you're giving that to a college football?
As a college kid, you get a silver cigar box.
But it's a beautiful, beautiful silver box. You just have to polish it every now and then.
Why did you keep the Sports Illustrated one? Just the
I don't know why. You know, again, there was no real thought about it, but and a lot of people, you don't think about the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year Award as, you know, everybody talks Heisman Trophy winner, Heisman Trophy winner. To me, it's really just as special, especially because, to my knowledge, I believe, I'm the only college football player that's ever received it. And Sports Illustrated was a wonderful organization to deal with. You know, after the fact, even, you know, when they had an anniversary deal and they invited all the sportsmen of the years back there, it's just fantastic organization to deal with. And the Heisman people are the same way, too.
Well, and I'd say this for the SI Award, Terry. I mean, yeah, you're the best college football player that year, but you got to beat out the baseball players and the pro football guys, the Olympians, or whoever else is doing something. That's king of the hill for everything that year. And as I recall, they also kind of try and take in your citizenship. You were an academic All-American. I think with them, all those things sort of count, you know.
They probably do. They probably do.
Terry, I've long wanted to ask you this question and never have. You have had so much success after football and after athletics. You know, you've had a law career of note and been very successful with that, and certainly a successful man who I think has probably had a chance to do a lot of the things that he's always wanted to do. But I also know as an athlete what a competitor you were and what a competitor you have had to have been to accomplish everything you did. Looking back, stick in your craw the whole NFL thing after all this time. Do you ever look back and say, God, you know, I wish that would have worked out?
Sure. I mean, it's a disappointment that stuck with me for a long time. And I even used to have dreams of going back and going through training camp and the exhibition season, and then for whatever reason I wouldn't stay. And then at some point I realized, you know, gee, I'm making about 10 times more now than I was ever made playing pro football. So
well, it's not quite that way nowadays.
No. But back in that day, it didn't take me long before I got to that point. Yeah. And so, and in basketball too, you know, I could have performed much better in those Final Four basketball games.
Would you have been a better basketball player if you'd never played football?
I can't say. I mean, because all through high school and you played whatever sport was in season.
Did you dream about playing in the NBA?
No. I used to work out with Jerry West a lot when I was in LA, became good friends, and played basketball with him some. And I don't think I would have burned up the NBA from my experience with him. But you know, who knows? It would have been fun.
All in all, though, watching the landscape of sports in Oregon as you have over the last 50, 60 years, really, it must be incredible to you to see what's happened with college football in the state. I joke all the time, Terry, and I tell people, you know, I'm not as big a college football fan as some people because I grew up in Oregon. And honestly, when I was a kid in Oregon, well, I mean, you guys went to the Liberty Bowl. It was like, oh my goodness, a bowl game. But it wasn't like these teams were going to the Rose Bowl regularly. It just seems like the interest in college football has just gone crazy since those days.
You're right, and to some degree, I think college basketball, even certainly in March. But football has, you know, from its infancy, it just moved up to a huge TV generating, you know, revenue generating spectacle that goes on. And it's kind of an arms race with these schools, you know, with the stadiums they're putting up and the facilities they build and the money they pump into it and the salaries that the coaches make. It's big business now, and much more so than. And a little bit the student athlete is kind of a bygone. You know, thing, in my view, a little bit, and especially in basketball, it's terrible. You know.
Yeah, the whole one and done thing.
Yeah, the one and done. And baseball is peculiar. Why they don't all operate under the same rules? You know, I don't know. I don't know that anybody knows a good reason why. Yeah. But football's big, and pro football, I think, is bigger than it ever was too. I mean, these are businesses or industries that have grown.
All right, Terry, I want to thank you. And, you know, I wanted to get you a little token of our appreciation for coming on. And it's like, what do you get a guy that's won the Heisman Trophy? He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He's in the Oregon State Hall of Fame. He's in the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame, probably. But what we always do here, we go up to Estes, and the owner there, Tony Spears, an old Beaver, and I think you know Tony.
I do.
And he wouldn't let me give you any other tie than one that was orange and black. So with our compliments and our thanks, Terry, we want to.
I'll probably be seeing Tony Saturday night down in Corvallis. We frequently run into each other, so I'll tell him good pick. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks.